Right, so get to my favorite part of the evening. This is where I get to shut up for a while and I can hand over to someone else to do all of the hard work. So fortunately today we've got Craig Leith along with us. Now Craig is with inflowfilms.com, so often seen behind a camera, a storyboard, a clapperboard, but what he does is to help people to craft their stories, craft their courses into online products and things that people can see, and in a professional way as well too. So a bit of background about Craig. I won't steal your thunder. I'll let him introduce himself as well too. But he has been worked in organizational development and leadership training. So he's really versed in how to put together learning programs, and he's done that for about 25 years for a range of industries. He doesn't even look 25, does he? But there you go, he's been doing it for 25 years. So crosses across hospitality, tourism, education, mining, IT, and a whole lot more. So he is a video geek. He loves video and really sort of enjoys helping people promote their business through that medium and to build learning content. So let's put our hands together and welcome along tonight, Craig Leith.
Thank you, Nick. Now, I'm not sure if you said your favorite part is where you get to stop talking, or that your favorite part is just finished because you enjoyed doing the presentation and telling people about your tools. But
stopping talking and handing over to an expert like you, I can actually get to learn something.
All right. I'm going to just launch in, but for everybody, what I'm going to do is break it up into pieces so that we can stop and then have a conversation rather than run through, a whole long presentation and then not have an opportunity to actually engage. So the engagement for me is the part where I'm getting the most feedback from people, and I know which paths to kind of go down, and I can answer the questions that people have got. So let me just sort of kick off, and then, as I said, I'll stop periodically, but was really interested to sort of hear what people were saying earlier. It sounds like John's already got quite a number of students running along. Joan's kind of going, okay, where do we sort of take this thing to? And we'll look at a range of things from content through to the marketing side of it. So let me just share my screen, if I can. The tech is always interesting. Can everybody see a set of feet on the screen? And I just need to, if you can. Oh, and if people want to get my attention, because I'm obviously doing the presentation itself, I'm not going to really see anything, but if you could just do that and literally just cover the whole of your camera, that's going to show up big on my side. So I'll be able to really quickly go, okay, let's kind of stop and maybe deal with that question. But we're a relatively small group, so please feel free to pipe in at any time. But as I said, I am going to stop from time to time. So if we've got it going. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just start off a little bit about me so you've got some context. This is me in the Grand Canyon a few years ago. Obviously not all of me, just the top bit. But tying into some of the stuff that Nick was talking about earlier, I've been doing learning and development for a number of years. It's probably more than 25, Nick, so that gives away the age. I think the hair, I can, sort of tell some of it. People like you, the silver foxes out there that don't lose their hair, well, a different story. But I've been in L&D for a number of years. What I also did is got into the field of hypnotherapy. And partly I did that because what we were finding with learning and development is that there were a lot of people that would kind of go along to programs and they wouldn't necessarily put in place any of the learning that they picked up. And I was really interested in why not. And when you start asking people, it's typically stuff like, I don't have time. That's normally the number one excuse that people will have. Shortly followed by, they won't let me, whoever they is. They is typically, if you're in a large organization, upper management. It could be in a small organization, my colleagues. But what I'm getting at is a lot of people seem to have excuses as to why they're not implementing stuff. And now we head into a world where a majority of it is online, where we have a lot more self-directed learning, and the problem gets worse. It doesn't get better. So it's really important when we're busy applying learning to people that we support them on an ongoing basis so that they continue to learn. Because if they're just going to show up, scan it once or twice, and then that's done, well, we're not going to get the learning that we would like to have happen. And typically that might mean that they've paid for the program or the first part of the program. And you might go, oh, you know, good and well, that's not my problem. But you're not going to have a lifelong customer. And one of the really important things with learning and development is once you've got people is to kind of keep them coming back. John, you mentioned you got something like 30,000 odd students. And I should imagine what that means is that you want them to be coming back on an ongoing basis, not just using that as a once-off. So it's really important that we kind of consider people's headspace when we're developing learning content. I did a lot of stuff in the organizational development space, and that includes the things that Nick was talking about, like leadership, team development, et cetera, et cetera. I've also had a number of small businesses myself call me a serial small business operator. I wouldn't go so far as to say a serial entrepreneur, because I tend to leave when the fun stuff stops, but often that's before it's made a lot of money. So I end up going into the next one and trying the next thing, but have worked in a number of businesses. And that's really led me to the space of filming. I almost fell into it by accident, having done learning and development for years and had video as part of it. A mate said to me, well, come along to the US, I'll pay for the trip, hence the picture at the Grand Canyon. I'll pay for the trip and, you know, we'll just have a good time and, you know, take some footage. And from that, the learning that I had was what I was considering was seriously easy. A lot of other people were actually really struggling with, and ended up getting into the directing, helping people with the lighting, the editing side of it, and pulling a whole lot of things together. And it sort of dawned on me at that point that stuff that I thought was super easy, other people were struggling with. And that is often the space where we can actually go and give our best to the world, is the stuff that we think is dead easy. Here's some organizations that I've worked with, just quick examples. So there's a number of them, some of them large, some of them a little smaller. You'll recognize a number of them from Australia. There's a few there from New Zealand, and obviously a smattering from South Africa as well. In terms of some smaller organizations that I've worked with, these are a lot of the smaller players. A lot of them are more recent. So some of them include bloggers, some of them are charities, and some of them are learning and development companies. So it's a range of things. Now, I don't mention this to impress anybody, but just to say, hey, I have been around. So please throw in your experience as well, because that's certainly going to help us, you know, pull the conversation forward. One of the things that I think is really important is to have some content that grabs people's attention. So you've seen some stuff that's there on the page now. It's just a quick video, and I'm hoping it comes through on Zoom, because Zoom's not always great. But I meant to actually stop it without it finishing. But hopefully something like that, what it does is it entices people to go, oh, what's next? What's coming next? So what I've done there is it's a simple crossover of actually having a basic picture with some video in the background. Now, I don't know if people want to pipe in, but let me see if I can maybe just jump back a bit. Can I? I'll let it run to completion. But was there anything that grabbed your attention when you're looking at that? Anybody want to just jump in?
Yes, Craig, I'll jump in. It's Mrs. Red here. I just like the way that it goes from the wave into a completely different image.
And then back out again. Yep.
Yeah, and then back out again. It's just eye-catching.
Okay. So what? I mean, that's essentially eye candy, but so what? Anybody else? People might be going, well, yeah, so what? Well, what the so what is if you do actually watch it and you're sort of seeing one image sort of morph into another, what you might not be getting is that on an ongoing basis, I'm bringing my brand up. And that's one of the things that we need to be doing consistently. Now, yeah, arguably that might be a little bit on the large side, but what it is about is it's about that constant reinforcement. So what you want is that when people are busy doing your learning content or doing your marketing, that they pick up your particular brand and they're then able to go, oh yeah, I remember this because that's about such and such. So a lot of the things that I'm using is things like waves, et cetera, because it's all kind of tying into the inflow kind of concept. And you can find the same stuff and tie it into your learning content, because that is going to get people to be coming back. Let's have a quick chat. Well, I don't know if I'm going to run through this one super fast in terms of why create an online learning program, because I think there's a number of people here that are already going, yeah, I know, and I am kind of going to do it anyway. But here's some numbers to just kind of think about. By 2025, worldwide e-learning is projected to be worth, anybody got any ideas what it might be worth? Speak up, can't hear you.
I'll guess 100 billion.
100 billion, okay, yep. Anyone else? Thanks, Colin.
I would suggest we'd be talking in the billions rather than millions.
Millions? Or was that Sean who said 100 billion, or was it a million?
No,
so anyway,
I said 100 billion.
Yep.
Billion, all right, okay.
So there's the number that they're kind of coming out in terms of looking at projections. This is 325 billion US dollars across the world. Now, if you look at that number, you might go, oh, okay, so what? But if you can just corner 0.0001% of that, that's already $325,000. And that's US. Now you might be going, oh, well, that's a big market to penetrate. Yeah, sure. And a lot of it is geared at education. A lot of the market is focused on universities. Here in Australia, online unis, Charles Sturt, some of the unis that have got strong online presence are cornering a big chunk of that market. But equally, there are a lot of people like us, adults out there, that are learning for their small businesses, and they also contribute towards it. E-learning's been here, believe it or not, for 22 years. So it was first, I want to say first kind of launched in 2000. And it was more when it really picked up steam. I was doing video in e-learning from already the mid-90s in terms of kind of looking at stuff. But that was more computer-based training, putting stuff on discs, giving it to people in a different format. Whereas it's kind of come of age. And in fact, the curve that it's been through is that it was more profitable a couple of years ago. COVID has now kind of re-increased that. But the reason I put the numbers out there is to say there is a lot of money available. And that alone should be something that you should be going, okay, yeah, let's get into this. Because it might not be your prime business, but if you know something and you can put it out there, well, why shouldn't you actually be tackling at least a piece of that market? The other thing to consider is, do you show people the same stuff over and over again? So if you're constantly taking people through your lead-in pages, if you're constantly explaining them to them how stuff works, why don't you just design some e-learning programs or some course material around it? It doesn't have to be super fancy, but it will potentially save you a whole lot of time. And that in itself means you're not selling it, but you're still busy teaching people to do stuff. And that can then again increase your brand. It can actually help you move forward. So let's gather some quick data, because I'm a strong believer in interaction, and interaction can make a real difference. So if you go to the site menti.com, is anybody here familiar with Menti? Quick hands up if you're familiar with Menti or used it before. Nick? Yeah, others? No? Well, here's a tool you can go and play with. So just open up your browser and go to menti.com and enter the code 51291685. So what you see on the screen there. And I've just dropped in a single question. Just answer that question.
Can you say the code again, Craig?
I'll just pop it into chat. There you go, it's in chat, and the code is 51291685. Okay, so far I've got 3 people that have participated. Any others, if you want to jam your numbers in? Four people. 7. We got 22 on the call, so we still have a few light. I'll let it run another couple of seconds in case people are still struggling. Nine people, so roughly half. Okay, so I'm going to show you the results in just a second. But again, just consider what happened there, because there's a lot of blah, 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 blah happening. But now something's been thrown your way and allows you to get the interaction going. And it's that interaction that can make a real difference. With your typical online programs that you put out there, if it's content that you've saved, especially if it's video and you've put it up, if there's quizzes and that kind of thing, that can help get that interaction. But sometimes people will just skid through that content super fast. I'm willing to bet now, we're up to number 11, people are going, okay, when is he going to show us the answers? Because that's what people are interested in. So if you can actually have an opportunity for people to sit and play with stuff, that certainly helps. So on that note, let's get some of that happening. There you go. That gives you an idea. So can people see my screen there with the charts? Yep. So if we look at that, you're either all a bunch of liars or you're a different market to what I'm used to. Because most of the markets that I'm used to dealing with goes for that first one that says nothing, it's got to be free. And you think about, especially if you're targeting the younger generation, think about apps that we have on our phones. How much do you pay for an app? At what point do you stop paying for an app? So does it have to hit $2, $3 before you go, oh, hell no, that's way too expensive, I'm not paying for that? Or are you one of the people that's prepared to pay $20 and $30 for an app that's going to do the right thing? And the same thing is true for our learning and development. We are creating and have created a culture where people actually expect to get a lot of stuff for nothing. The second most used search engine in the world is, any guesses? It's YouTube. And when people go onto YouTube, they are there because they are often searching how to. How do I do this? How do I put on a tie? How do I catch butterflies? How can I start beekeeping? How can I get a girlfriend? And there's a number of other things. Now, they're short, but this is what we're educating people to do. We're educating people to go to YouTube and get their content that way. Now, that flies in the face of what you guys are showing up on the screen, which is you're prepared to pay for content. You're prepared to pay for good content that is actually going to help make a real difference. And so even up to, we've got the, I stopped at $2,000, but I know that there's a number of programs out there that are far more than $2,000, because if they really help you, and if they're really getting you the results that you're looking for, well, then why wouldn't you pay for them? But again, just look around the room, look at who's in the room. And often it is an older generation that is happier to pay for the content. Now that might mean that you need to actually target your audience at the people or similar people that are around the room, or you need to be targeting it in such a way that it is different to what people can go and get on YouTube. So for example, what we're busy doing tonight, can you go and create learning programs? Go to YouTube, type in, how can I create a learning program? There will be lots and lots of results, but often those results are short, they're small, and they don't necessarily lead you to the result that you want. So what we need to be doing is selling the content to people in such a way that they go, okay, I'm going to pay for something, and that's actually going to help me move forward. Any questions or comments on that? See, this is the downside of the internet, because people just live in silence. Whereas I know that if this was a room that I was working, you know, there would be a whole lot more conversation. But anybody,
Well, it does bring up the question of how you price a course. You know, in terms of, do people price based on what they feel it's worth? Do they price on what they think the market will pay? You know, there must be some guidelines on that, I suppose.
Yep. And that depends on your mindset. And it's one of the things that we'll cover. How much do you think your course is worth? Now, people might go, oh, well, that doesn't matter. It depends on how much people are willing to pay. And Sean, you're absolutely right. But often when we're selling something, are you comfortable at that price level that you're charging? Because if you're not comfortable, you're actually better off lowering your price level. I kind of live by the philosophy of stack them high, sell them cheap. Now, you might go, oh, you're losing a lot of value. But what that does is it allows me to feel comfortable to sell it at that level. So if people come in and go, oh, that's too expensive, I go, sure, knock yourself out, go and see if you can get it cheaper somewhere else. Whereas if I was charging, if I added a couple of zeros to what I was charging, potentially I wouldn't feel good about that. And if I don't feel good about it, I'm unlikely to market it. So getting your price point right is a couple of factors, exactly as Sean mentions. One is, let's figure out what it is people are willing to pay. Surprise, surprise, that was just some research that I conducted. I have a damn good idea now about what people are willing to pay. or in this room anyway. Now, okay, it's a small sample that gives me an idea. Should I be upping my price? Maybe. What's the content of what you're looking for? Because this was quite generic. But yes, let's play with it. Let's go and get some stats out, and they can actually assist us to market the price right. Any other comments?
My suggestion would be that it depends on the course. There was a lady selling a course the other day on how to potty train your baby.
Yep.
And I would imagine a course like that, nobody's going to pay $500 to learn how to potty train the baby. There's courses out there that I would think that are worth $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, depending on the value that you get from them.
Yep.
The course that I've got there, I'd valued it that at 1 hour of a lawyer's time, but there's 3 hours worth of product in there that's much better than you would get from a lawyer. So yeah, I gauged my price around that.
Yeah. Now, to Sean's point earlier, Colin, that's the value you're putting on it. Are your customers putting similar value on it? And it's about playing that game a little. And to your point, the $500 for potty training, any mums out there, if you've been struggling for months to potty train your kid, and someone comes up with a guarantee that they can show you how to do it, and it's going to cost you $500, would you buy? If you would buy, maybe just cover the screen. That just gives everyone else an example.
I think the course came with a big stick with nails in it as well as a bonus.
Yeah, a bit scared of your parenting style there, Colin.
Yeah. Actually, that's an interesting example, Craig, because I do know someone that has got a course like that. It's more around as a bedwetting, and she sells it for around that price point. She's bundled in some other things as well, but that's what she's selling it for, and she is selling them.
Because she's found a pain point in her market, and they are willing to have their problem go away for the princely sum of $500. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, if you've ever had kids, you definitely would pay $500 is cheap for clean nappies. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And a good night's sleep. Like seriously, I'd pay $1,500 for it. You know. Yep.
Absolutely. If it's a pain point for you, then yeah, that is something that you would pay.
Especially when the kids are like young and you're tired and you're wrecked anyway, and you've got all other things coming at you at 100 miles an hour. Like seriously, it's just get it dealt with, you know.
Absolutely. And it all depends on what it is your customers are feeling. And this is the same as physical product. The difference is we can't always have that tactile thing that we might have with people in the online environment. But if you can encourage people to explore their pain points and you can show them how you solve that, you're a good deal of the way there.
Yeah, I think I've got actually saying stuck to my computer. So the more you can make them feel the pain, the more they can pay, the more they'll pay. So yeah, pushing to start off with, and they'll cough up the cash, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Now on the screen now, you'll see a life raft. Anybody here ever had to use a life raft?
Actually, we can just see a grey screen at the moment.
Oh, that's not good.
Maybe that's our life raft, Nick.
Could be.
I'm going to just axe my let's try that again.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, you can see some stuff now. Thanks for the heads up. There's nothing quite so disturbing as when you think it's all going well from the presenter side and it's not. So thank you, Nick. Anybody here ever had to get into a life raft?
I did some training in one in the Qantas pool once for a marine survival training.
Right. And was that the kind of thing you just got into super easy, or was there lots of ducking and spluttering before you sort of
lots of ducking and spluttering, and sometimes they flip over, so you have to run a rope underneath or over the top. I can't remember how it works now, and put your feet against it and pull on the rope and flip the whole thing over. And yeah.
Great. And a lot of it, of course, is about learning how to use it so that when you're stuck in that situation, that you're in a position where you can actually take it and run with it. Now, I'm going to use the life raft as an analogy as we go through, but be careful because life rafts do different things under different circumstances. Ideally, we don't want to be getting into the life raft. Ideally, we'd like the big ship to kind of just keep sailing. And is your learning program a life raft? Is it something that's going to help you move off the boat that you're currently on, your current business, or is it something else? So just consider some of the cultures that you might see around life rafts. I can get this going. So there's the example of a really big life raft. A lot of people on this particular one, okay, they're just busy testing it. So similar to what Sean was talking about earlier. There's a small one. Now, the cultures on those two different rafts, two very, very different things. You can imagine the relationships you build on this one and what you're doing in terms of food and who's in charge and what's busy going on is going to be very different to if you were on this one. Now, the reason I mention that is you just need to consider who is your learning program aimed at? What kind of culture are you trying to build around it? Because that's really important in terms of what you're setting up and what people are expecting as they go into it. Are people seeing it as something that's going to save them? So the potty training type example, or is this just, hey ho, I'll just launch a few life rafts and we'll see how it goes and another tool and who cares? In which case you haven't necessarily snagged them. So I have what I call the life raft model. And again, this is about trying to get people to go, okay, let's sort of remember what this looks like. So life raft model for online learning. Pretty much, it's got a bunch of essential components and I'm going to whip through them. And again, we can have a chat as we go. So the first one is your mindset and your habits. So this is in terms of how you actually set the content up. So who's in charge of creating this program? Is it you, the bloke sitting on the desk there, looking all confident with a whole lot of ideas behind them? Sorry, ladies, but I have a bloke example. I'll have a lady example later. Is that you? Or is it this guy? Now, this guy is deep inside your head. And call him your subconscious, call him crocky, call him your limbic system, call him whatever you want. But often this guy has got you by the brain and you think you're in charge. But sometimes we've been driven by our fears. We've been driven by what's going on in the background. Are you comfortable putting yourself out there? Are you comfortable selling your program? Are you comfortable having yourself videoed and being on that video? Or do you have a different way that you're actually going to be approaching it? Because there's a part of you that's going to constantly say, you're not good enough. You haven't done this enough times. Why are you an authority? Whatever those other excuses might be. And sometimes they will kill you right at the starting blocks. That thing can stop you from taking the very, very first step. And what you're wanting to do is to make sure that at least you've got that one side of the raft blown up. So how do you self-sabotage? We all self-sabotage in different ways. Do you never start? It's too big and daunting. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too busy. Nobody's going to pay for it. Put whatever your favorite excuse is there. Anybody want to share? What's the thing that stops you? Why haven't you done it already? E-learning's been here for 22 years. What stopped you? Why haven't you done it already?
I feel like I'm too busy.
Too busy? Yep. Okay. And is there a way around that? Could you outsource it and get somebody else to do it for you?
Probably not, but I'm changing a few things around now so that I've got more time to do it.
Okay, great, cool, excellent. So we're looking at the solution, which is brilliant. Anyone else?
I think it's making a priority to do it if you're trying to do a whole lot of different things for your business.
Yep.
And different strategies to bring in income. What is something you can invest in that doesn't take a lot of time, that's going to reap rewards quickly, against something where you want to take time so you develop an actual quality product that demonstrates your ethics and philosophy of your business.
Yep, great. Thank you, Annie. Getting that balance right between good product and get it done, get it out, getting that balance right can be quite hard. But I would suggest that what you want to do is get it done. Don't worry about getting it perfect, because perfection is one of those things that will sit on that self-sabotage list. It's one of the things that will block you. But to your point, absolutely. I have a coach who says, stop saying you don't have time and start saying it's not a priority. Because what that does in your head is it begins to shift. Okay, if this isn't a priority, maybe I need to take it off the list of things that I need to be focused on. Nick was talking earlier about, what did you say, Nick? Two hours a day, or was it up to 4 hours a day people are productive? If you've only got 2 hours a day, do you want to be spending it on this? And if your answer is yes, absolutely, because that's going to help me take my business forward, then great, commit to it and do it right. But if you're just dabbling and messing around, well, you're better off putting your stuff into putting your effort into other areas. To Sean's point, yeah, there's a recognition that maybe I didn't have enough time. but there's some decisions that I'm hearing Sean's made about, yes, this is going to become a priority and I'm going to move forward with this. So just consider your mindset. What is it that's stopping you? Because it will continue to stop you. That crocodile that is inside our heads, we don't even know that we're on autopilot. We don't even know that this thing is running us. And sometimes speaking to your loved ones, speaking to people around you, they can actually point it out, so long as you don't bite their heads off, of course. So stuff that you can do about it. Find a tried and true process. So something that someone else has been through, and there's lots of stuff out there, and we'll talk about bits and pieces here, and use that. Take one step at a time. Take this huge elephant and break it down so that it's only one bite. Nick was talking about procrastination, similar stuff, same process. It's about taking that one step at a time type thing. Have an accountability buddy. So there's no reasons why a couple of you shouldn't be pairing up and meeting with people on a fortnightly basis just to go, Jane, how's your program going? Oh, Annie, it's not as good as it was because I got busy with the kids and my art, et cetera, et cetera. And we have a conversation around that, but that just becomes a reminder that actually helps people move forward. This might sound really weird, but do stuff like meditation. Sometimes stepping away and doing that mindfulness stuff can actually assist you to kind of be more focused and focus on what it is you need. Yeah, hypnotherapy, you already heard I was a hypnotherapist, but sometimes that's one of the ways that you can actually tackle your inner demons, is you can actually deal with those things when they are a problem. Ideally, with all of these things, what you're doing is you're making yourself, purely from a psychological perspective, you're making yourself bigger than the problem. Because when we look at online learning and you look at, there is a lot of good content out there, but there's also a lot of shitty content out there. But when you look at the really good stuff, there's this conversation that starts happening in your head about, oh, I can't be as good as that. And, I don't have 2 or 3 cameras, or I don't have the time. And what you're doing is you're making yourself smaller than the problem. And as soon as you make yourself smaller than the problem, you're giving that crocodile in your head permission to go, never mind, I've got this sorted. I'll make it so that you don't have to do it. So just think about this stuff in terms of mindset, the habits that you set up. It's kind of like writing a book. Go out and write 500 words a day. You just have to do that for 30 days and you'll have a chunk of words, and then you can sort of take it and move it forward. Anybody who works with any of the creative arts, I know Jane and I were chatting the other day in terms of, what can people do? And it's just having that consistent focus that can help you get over your mindset issues. Any questions or comments? Moving right along then. So if we've got mindset and habits, the second part that I have is content. And I know for a number of people, they're going, okay, this is the stuff that we want to talk about. Let's skip all that mindset stuff. Let's get straight to the content. But please, please, the mindset stuff is important because content will form a part of that. So when you put content together, what are you doing? Who are you helping? And the picture that I've got there on the page is of someone who's got their hands chained. Whether it's a mum who's doing the potty training, that was our example earlier, or whether it's a franchisee who's now struggling to get their franchise going. Have you solved their problem? Can you help them solve their problem? Because if you can do that, that's the right content. People will pay for what you've got. Now, you might not believe that, but speak to people. Go and conduct those researches like I did with Mentee earlier, or go and just speak to a whole lot of people. If you're at a networking meeting, maybe just say, well, just want to check. I'm planning on doing this program. Is that something that people would be inclined to pay for? Because that actually then helps you at least get a sense of what's your market doing. Will people pay for it? And people will typically pay for it if it solves a problem. If it is just noise, they're not going to pay for it. So it has to show them that there's a way through, that this thing that is a pain point for them that is actually going to solve it. Surprise, surprise, it's exactly the same as anything else in business. So think about what is the problem that you're solving in the rest of your business. So if you figured out what the rest of your business is doing, all you need to do is take that and turn into a learning program so that you can teach people this stuff. Now, you need to be really careful that with your content, you're not cannibalizing your main offering. So if you're going to offer a whole lot of stuff over here, and then you're going to give all of that away free, I'm going to teach you how to do that. Well, maybe that's not so smart. But maybe people are learning it anyway, and you need to kind of think through that stuff to figure out what kind of content it is you're putting out there. So me, for example, I'm in the field of videoing and helping create videos for people. And a number of people have said to me, why don't you create a program that is about teaching people how they can do this on their phones? And I've been resistant, partly because A, there's a lot of content out there that will already show you how to do that. And secondly, that chews into my market. If I show you how to do it, are you still going to come to me for it? And I'm going, yeah, maybe not. So instead, the twist that I've put on it is to say, let me show you how to be in front of a camera. Let me show you how to put your best self forward so that you can show up, you know where to look, you know how to speak, you've kind of got your bullet points, you've prepped, you've got a program, and people are going, oh, yeah, I need that. Great. But that then ties it together with my existing offering. It doesn't replace it. So just have a think about those things. If your business is entirely online, well, that might be different. My business isn't entirely online. My business relies quite a lot on the people that I meet on an ongoing basis. So I need to maintain that balance between local and what's going on in the online environment. You already solve a lot of problems. Figure out your ikigai. Anybody know what ikigai is? If you do, just do one of them. Ikigai? Karen's going, yeah, maybe, no. Sean?
Yeah.
See, Sean is clearly an engaged learner. These are the kind of people I love. This is fabulous. So your ikigai, look it up. Ikigai is where a number of circles intersect. So I'll blow that up a little so that you can see it better. But ikigai is, what do you love to do? What's your passion? What are you here to do? What are you good at? What does the world need and what can you be paid for? And what you need to do is find the intersecting point of all of these circles. Now, there's a little bit of science behind how you get to that, but in a nutshell, this is it. The purists would go, oh, hang on, that's not true ikigai. There's some other things that you need to kind of bring into the equation. But effectively, this is it. Is this something you love to do? Because that's going to keep you driving. Is this something that you're good at? If you're competent at it, what tends to happen is you tend to enjoy it more. Is it something the world needs? In other words, the world wants this to solve a problem. And is this something that people will pay for? And if you can get that ikigai, that thing right in the center, kind of covered off, well, then you've kind of found it. Again, chances are pretty good that your business already does some of that. And this is just about taking it and adjusting it into a learning program. Rightio, I'm going to move along because people are going to go, okay, well, how do I get to that? Use these things. Can people see me on the screen or can you only see my screen share?
Screen share.
All right, let me just stop that for a second then. If I have managed to stop it. Am I on again? No, not yet.
Yes.
Okay. Go to Officeworks and buy a hold of these. Just index cards. That's all they are. This will cost you, I don't know, $5. I've had them around for a while. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to go, okay, let me just sort stuff out. Now, I know Nick is totally about online tools and using online tools, and there are tools that you can use for it. But I've used a number of tools, including a thing called Flying Logic. I've used Trello. I use a number of things. I've found nothing as good as some basic index cards. So what you do is you find the index cards. In my example here, I've got 5 different ones. First off, what you want is, you can use my example or anything you like. You want to write down what are all your main topics. You put those on to, say, the pink cards. You then want to have a look at, well, what are my subtopics? You write those down on, say, yellow cards. What are the facts? What's the logic? Where are the stats? What is this, that kind of stuff that I want to share? I'd put that on white. What are the stories? So do I have any stories that I can tell either from my own experience or the experience of my clients, people that I've run into? Are there videos that I can access? Whatever it might be. What's the story? The kind of stuff that brings some emotion to it. And exercises. Is there stuff that people can do? So if you can work out what it is people should be doing to help them move through it, to help them solve the problem, well, then that's a part of it. And what you do is you lay these things out on the dining room table, you write lots and lots of them, and it builds a picture in front of you, and it's color coded. So you can very easily go, oh, look here, here's my main titles. And under my main titles, if I can have it the right way around, under my main titles, I've got a couple of these, and I'll split them down. And once I've got a few of those, and then I can see, well, there's some love that's been peppered throughout it. I've got a few exercises. Sorry, I know that's not showing up right. No, still not showing up. Oh, it's because it's green. My green screen doesn't like the green card. There's your stories. And lastly, obviously your facts. So you want to take those and build them in. And you just lay this big thing out on the dining room table. And that will give you very quickly an idea of the content that you could be covering off. You already know this stuff. It'll only take half an hour to do this. then take a picture or put it into those online tools, play with it a bit more, bring in another colleague. And that can be a really, really useful process in terms of figuring out what content needs to go into your program.
I love this. I think that's great.
It's super, super easy. Okay, I should be streaming again. People see my stream? Yep, Nick says yes. Okay, so in terms of the content, where am I at? What we need to now do is look at the technology. Now, people sometimes get stuck on the technology and trapped there. They always try to find the best thing to use. Let me go to the whatever it is, the widgets we were talking about earlier, Cartflow or Learn Worlds or you know, whatever it might be. There's a technology that can kind of grab you and can create a barrier. What you're wanting to do is, first of all, split it into a couple of different technologies. So the one is learning technology. Just use video. Don't just use video, but use video. Now, why would I be saying that? Well, obviously, you know, I'm partly in the business of video, so I'm saying, hey, use this stuff. But if you look out there, it's something in the region of 88 or 90% of the content that people look at on Facebook or elsewhere on the web is video. That's what people look at. That's what people click. That's what resonates with people because they want that little bit of a story. Believe it or not, a lot of them actually don't want the audio around that. They're quite happy to read a video, which is why on Facebook, you'll sometimes see that there's captions that have been burned in. That kind of thing takes place as well. So if you just have a video without that, can be a problem. But video, 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 make sure that it actually is a part of the technology that you're using. Put in things like quizzes, interviews, exercises, take people through it step by step. You're breaking this thing down. So whatever problem it is they've got, you're pulling it down so that they go, okay, I can see what the next step is. And that actually helps people through it. And if you're helping people through it, you're solving their problem in a way that they're probably willing to pay for. Learning styles. And look, I've been around the industry for a long time, and I think we can get caught up on this stuff. But you basically want to make sure that you've got some visual content, you've got some audible content, and audio doesn't have to only be sound. Audible can also be things that people read, because a number of people will actually read stuff and it kind of makes a voice in their heads. Diagrams, things that explain a process. Can you make it kinesthetic? So kinesthetic is about, are you there? Can you feel it? What I had here earlier, and again, I don't know if people can see because you're looking at my page now, but the thing about the cards is kinesthetic. You're kind of really starting to play with it. You're really physically getting to grips with something. So cater to all those learning styles if you can. Scaffolding is something that people that have been in learning a number of years will talk about. And scaffolding is just breaking it down in such a way that people will go through it step by step. Don't give them the too hard stuff too early. What you're wanting to do is to give it to them in bite-sized bits so they get it. They get the pieces that they need, and that helps them kind of get to the next piece. Game designers are brilliant at this stuff. They help people start early on and then kind of progress through the game in levels of complexity. Then there's the technology. Now, someone's going to beat me up over this one, I know. Do not put your learning content on your website unless it has been custom built to make it work. So if you're using stuff like a WordPress plugin, make damn sure that your server is actually able to deal with stuff like video. Because if you're just going to put it on your website and hope like hell it works, you're going to have a problem. There's a lot of tools out there like Vimeo that you can actually use that are designed specifically to get video content out to people. There's a lot of learning management systems that you can use. You want to be building on that. Don't put it on YouTube. Unless, of course, you're planning on giving it away. If you want to give it away, by all means, shove it on YouTube, not a problem. But if you're wanting to charge for it, putting it on YouTube is a problem. Because what YouTube does is at the end of every YouTube clip, it immediately shows up a number of windows that says, well, where else do you want to go? Because we want to keep you going down this rabbit hole. And people then click, oh, I was just looking at potties. Let me look at these new potties that have come out. And off they go. They're down a different rabbit hole. They're not actually focused on your content. And that's why I say not YouTube. YouTube is great if it's free. It's great if you want to get some messages out there. But it's not great from a marketing perspective. And it's not great from an e-learning perspective. Cameras. Does it matter if you don't have multiple cameras? Well, multiple cameras can help, they're not necessarily essential. Just make sure that you're doing stuff in a clean way that people can actually see and get to grips with. There's a number of guys that I follow out there that only use one camera, and they do it really, really well. There are a number of other guys that I follow that have multiple cameras, and they do a shit job. So what you want to be doing is using the cameras in such a way as it works for you. 2 cameras are better than 1. I know, for example, Mrs. Red does some art, and I'm guessing, Jane, that you actually have 2 cameras. You probably use one to focus on you, and the other one focuses on the art that you're busy drawing. And that's a perfect example where multiple cameras really work.
So I use I use the camera on the computer, and then I've got a webcam that goes straight down onto the drawing.
Yep. That can make it more complex when you're using stuff like Zoom, but there are other things you can do with Zoom. Today, I've just plugged in using a presentation, but if it was a full e-learning program, I would be plugging in using a switcher, which enables me to go from screen to screen, bring up websites, etc., all at the same time. Sorry, just jumping back, microphones. Believe it or not, audible stuff is more important. Let me just emphasize that, more important than visual content. Because you think about yourself and how you look at videos. You will often be prepared to watch a video that is dodgy video quality, but not if there is dodgy audio quality. The audio has to be good. And if you have to choose between good video and good audio, always choose good audio. And what that means is don't just use any crappy old mic that comes with your system. Get something that's going to help bump the quality of it up. Rode puts out some excellent mics that you can use, and they will definitely bump the quality up. Nick was talking earlier about crisp. Well, what that's busy doing is it's helping improve the quality of what you've got there. I'm going to run out of time unless I start going lickety-split. Lighting. Lighting doesn't always matter. Here where I am today, I've got 3 lights kind of on me. I've designed this thing. I have a green screen behind me. This thing has been designed specifically with these things in mind. I have a studio that I use as well, which has got lighting. I heard Nick talking about a studio, same kind of deal. If you don't want to get lighting, just find yourself a clear window and be near the window. Don't film. By the way, this is a green screen window. Filming yourself in front of a window, unless you've got a good camera, is going to be a problem. So what you want to be doing is testing a few situations and make sure that you get the lighting right. If you had the lighting so that it was coming in on the one side of you, that would be really good. And that would then light your face up. If you can do it outdoors, well, that's great, but potentially that's going to screw up your sound. So you need to kind of think through those things. What you don't want to do is overthink it. Go out and do one. And at least you can come back and go, oh, what I learned is that didn't work. That sucked. Well, at least you know one thing that sucks. Whereas if you try to get it perfect, you won't necessarily get past that mindset stuff. Then there's some other techie stuff that I'll take you through really quickly. Stings or intros, lower thirds, bugs, and B-roll. Now people are going, oh, you just entered jargon land for me. Yes, that is jargon land, but I'll run you through really quickly what they are. So last point before I move on. Don't let the tech screw up good content. If you've got good content and it doesn't maybe come across in the most technically wonderful way, who cares? So long as you're still getting your good content across. Don't get caught in the tech trap, though, where you get stuck with this technology and you're unable to move forward. So let's run through what those are. Stings. Here's an example of a sting. So that's one I did recently for a client. That just goes at the end of their video. It's the same reason that I have the thing with the waves earlier. It's the same reason that I would have something at the end of my learning content. If you're doing stuff on YouTube, you make damn sure you've got one of those things in there, because what you're busy doing is you're constantly reinforcing your brand to people. So people will then go, oh, I've seen this somewhere before. Let me click on that again. When we go, everyone must subscribe, that's not the real world. Not everybody subscribes. In fact, the majority of people do not subscribe. So what you're wanting to do is reinforce your brand in other ways. That's a lower third. There's a mate of mine that I did some stuff with, so I'm hoping he doesn't mind me using his image. A lower third is simply the title that goes underneath you. It's got your name on it, and it says what it is you do. That's kind of it. Now, why would you have that? Well, it stops you from saying, hi, I'm Barry, and I'm the principal of the Vision School, because in those 3 seconds, people have gone boring and they've clicked away. So what you're wanting to do is get into your content as quickly as you possibly can. And if people are interested, that message comes up underneath. Yeah, I'm just being funny. What's bugging you? A bug is the thing that's at the bottom right of your screen there. I've just got my logo on an ongoing basis. Now, if you're doing video, you can have that there. If you watched a lot of news, you'll see 7 News, 9 News, Al Jazeera, all of them have bugs. They all use bugs, and they're typically in the bottom right-hand corner. Sometimes they can be elsewhere on the screen, but that's typically where they are. And again, what you're busy doing is reinforcing your brand. And if somebody actually does take your content and use it, it's really hard to pull those bugs out. So what you're doing is you're kind of making sure that it stays as part of your stable. Oh, and the last one was B-roll. So B-roll is, and I don't have a slide on that, just because B-roll is all the extra footage that you bring in, because a talking head is super, super boring. You think about what we're busy doing here. Yes, I've got a presentation that I'm showing you, but effectively it's a talking head. And what you're wanting to do is to move away from talking heads as much as you possibly can. There's too many videos out there of talking heads. They're as boring as batshit. And where possible, you want to be using other stuff. And that's where B-roll comes in. And if you're interested in the term, A-roll is typically where you're shooting the main actor, the talent, and B-roll is where we've got other pictures of the scene at the river and Mrs. Jones picking up her shopping and a kid using the potty or whatever else it might be. That's B-roll. That's the stuff that you work in with what you're doing. Any questions before we move on? I've got 10 minutes to wrap up the rest of it, so I'm going to have to go super fast. Any questions?
No, very helpful so far.
Rightio, moving right into it. The next step, because now what you've done with the first 3 bits is you got over your head, so you've managed to go ahead. You've figured out some content and you've got some technology, so you've created this stuff. And now potentially you're in a space where you've now got to distribute it. Well, where are you going to put it? And this comes back to some of the technology I spoke about earlier. Don't necessarily put it on your website, but you want people to come through your website to go to it. Don't necessarily put it on Facebook, but you want people to go through Facebook to get to it. So use those as channels that actually help distribute your content. So figure out where you want to house it, what's going to make the best sense for you, and then what you want to do is just get people to that point. So what you're looking for is a thing called an LMS, or learning management system in old speak. Nowadays, they tend not to use those words anymore, but there's a number of tools out there that you can access. Some of them are plugins, some of them are free, but in the world of LMS, I'm afraid you get what you pay for. So you can do it through your website if you're using a link, but that will normally point to somewhere else. WordPress integration, yes, there are a couple of things that you can actually use. And Nick earlier was talking about, I think it was cart flows in terms of the sales side of it, but often I would prefer to just have a link that goes from my site through to where I'm housing the learning, and people can actually stay there. And I use LearnWorlds, and you either love it or you hate it. I find it's pretty good. It'll cost you between, I think if I remember right, the lowest package is about $24 a month. That's US. And then that comes with a couple of caveats where you're still paying $5 for each learner that signs up, et cetera, et cetera. What's good about it is it automatically has Stripe integrated. So you don't have to send people anywhere else. On that learning platform, they can automatically go, oh, what's this about? They can see a video, they can see a synopsis of what's there, and then they drive straight through to paying the money, and they now become a subscriber as part of the system. You could use Kajabi. I know a number of people that use Kajabi, and there's a number of other learning management systems out there. People have got their favorites. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it does the job and it does it effectively. Anybody got any others that they use? John, I don't know if he's still here. John mentioned they were running a whole lot of content.
Actually, he runs all of his off WordPress, I had to say.
Okay.
But
So-
having said that, they've got some pretty big servers there because they've got 30,000 odd students coming through, and they've got a fairly sort of extensive setup. So you can run it on WordPress, but what I would agree with you saying that you wouldn't put it on your main website. You would put it on a standalone website, or you have a learning management system like you've got.
Somewhere else where you're running it from. Yeah, absolutely. And there are WordPress plugins, and I can't for the life of me remember.
There's LearnDash, WP Courseware.
I think it was LearnDash. I think if I remember right, that costs you about $200 a year.
It's about right.
Your cost is substantially less, but you can then also make sure that you're serving, if there's any videos, you can make sure that you're serving them up from a place like Vimeo. So that's typically how I've done that. So if you are going to use that kind of plugin, what you want to be doing is serving it from Wistia, Vimeo, or any of those things that are designed specifically for video type content. Thank you, Nick. Okay, distribution, that was super quick. But what you now want to do is the marketing piece. And I know Joan's going, finally, we're getting to the bit that I'm interested in. Joan, part of my problem is that I'm not a marketer. I'm the guy that does all the other bits and pieces, and then getting to the marketing space is where it starts becoming a little difficult. But there are a number of people that can assist with that, and there are different ways that we can look at it. So how are you planning on marketing it? Are you going to use Facebook? We all know Facebook works pretty well. Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it might be, whatever tools it is you're using, all you're doing is you're using them as a mechanism to point people through to where your content actually is. So I've kind of just dropped one big thing in there. And the reason is there are specialists that operate in this marketing space that can look at making sure that they get it out there. The first bits, though, are making sure that you've got all your content there, you figured out how you want to distribute it, and now you're looking also at your client base. There's things like, would I want it on LinkedIn? Well, if you've got business customers, that would be the place that you're going to place it. Would you put all your content there? No, it's a couple of teaser type videos. What about Facebook? Same kind of thing, but it's a different market. You're kind of looking at doing things in a slightly more casual way. What if you are selling something that is geared at a particular community? Well, maybe that community has a forum. Is it okay for you to be marketing on that forum, or is that an absolute no-no? So it's about figuring that stuff out and being able to then market appropriately. Marketing is hard. Out of all of these things, I would argue that's the hardest. And you're going, great, thanks, Craig. It's the hardest, and you're only going to spend, a couple of minutes on this. The nature of the beast is that there are experts out there that can do it. Anybody want to comment? Anybody know of good video marketers, good training program marketers? Okay, I am partnering up with someone. So if you are interested, I can point you at someone. I don't want to put it here because it's spruiking on their behalf. But if you are interested, and my email will come up, you're welcome to actually send me a thing saying, tell me who your marketing guru is, and I can kind of point you towards them, and they can have a conversation with you and assist you with that. Last but not least is ongoing support. And this is about getting those repeat customers. If you think this is just like selling something and you never have to touch it again, well, the World Wide Web is wonderful at allowing people to say how lousy you are, at allowing people not to leave good recommendations, at allowing people to talk about why this is not working for them. You obviously want the reverse stories. So you want to be providing some ongoing support across the whole journey to help your learners through this stuff. And that sometimes means doing things like Zoom calls, having ongoing meetings every couple of weeks, touching base with the customers. Don't see this as something that you can put up online, forget about it, and it's going to earn you a lot of money. You might be lucky, but in a lot of cases, it requires this ongoing support to actually make it work properly. What you're trying to do effectively is what I've got here. Most people will sit. What I've got on the left-hand end of the scale is capability, 0 to 5, if you like. Most people will see themselves as somewhere between 2 and 3. I know something about this. I know enough to know that I don't know enough, but I'd really like to get my skill set up there. And what you're trying to do is take people and move them off that red curve and move them onto the blue curve. So you're trying to help people move from level 3, which is middling, through to level 4 and 5. And why I'm saying that is that's what people will pay for, because you're solving a problem at the high level then for them. Whereas if you're only going to teach them how to do level 2 and level 3 stuff, they will just shrug and go, well, you know what? I can go onto YouTube and I can get that free. So what you're wanting to do is to make sure that they can access it, they can grow, but that you're stimulating that growth into the higher levels, whatever the higher level looks like to you. That's pretty much me. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to contact me by email, send me a text, set up a meeting. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you and take you through your own situation in terms of what are you struggling with, what's working for you. Obviously, I have content that I can sell as well, but I tend not to be one of those pushy people because I just struggle with that. So I rather have a conversation where I assist. We just sort of see where you can go to. And if there's a fit, happy to work with you. If not, also happy to point you to others. Nick, awesome. I'm going to hand back to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Craig. Any questions from anyone? Any last requests?
I would like to let people know that Craig would have to be one of the best video guys that I've ever spoken to. I did use him for a project and I would give him 110 out of 100. So if anybody's really thinking about it, they really should phone him first. They'd be doing themselves a favour.
Thank you, Colin. I'll pay you later.
Excellent. Actually, Craig has got some good examples of his work on his website too. So if you go to inflowfilms.com, I did have a look at it. So actually, I had a look at all your videos just to make sure you're up to spec. But mate, you really sort of do what you talk, so it's really good.
Thank you. And some of that stuff's a bit old, and I would go, oh, let's add some others in there. But that's the perfectionist in me sort of coming out.
So, Craig, can I just ask you one thing before you go? How long does your courses go for, you know, before you go, okay, I'm going to break this into like a, you know, basic course and then an advanced course? How long is a people's concentration span before they're over it?
You typically want to break them into modules that people can actually do in one bite. So if you're thinking about video per se, I would say you want to keep it around about the 10-15 minute mark. If you're going to stretch up to 20 minutes, that's fine. But you're now starting to cobble together a couple of pieces. So having lots of content is great, but break it up. So have 10 to 15 minutes, and then there's quizzes or there's other things that people can go and read. And what they will then see is they will see themselves progress through the learning that you've got there. Overall, how long the whole program is, that depends obviously on, you know, the complexity of what you're dealing with. You want to be breaking it up in such a way that people feel comfortable moving forward. Don't overload them. And of course, you also want to try and keep your price points so that you can have a basic, intermediate, advanced. But if it's basic and that's 10 minutes and, you know, I paid a lot of money for that, and I'm going, well, 10 minutes, that didn't really do it for me. Well, so some of it, I'm afraid, is feeling your way. A good indication, I would say, is anything over about 3 hours of total learning, you're probably looking at now splitting it into 2 learning programs.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking, like 10 modules seems to be the limit where I'm getting at the moment, where people are going, you know, that's kind of enough. Although, you know, I do break it down into, like you said, 10 small modules. I suppose value-wise, I've got all this value I want to chuck at somebody, but where do you stop, and where do you stop and over, you know, from overwhelming someone and going, oh, that course is just huge, I'm just not going to finish it, you know?
And of course, don't lose sight of the fact that right towards the end of your program, you can also be saying, now we've covered the basics here. If you want the more advanced stuff, there's this other program. You need to be careful with it, because people do get tired of going, oh, great, so you've just spent a whole lot of time selling me on your higher paid program, and that doesn't work for people. So they need to be getting really good content, but there's nothing wrong with them kind of seeing that there's a path where they can actually get some other stuff.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, look, thanks very much for your wisdom and time tonight, Craig. I know we only spoke about this a couple of weeks ago.
Anytime.
But you know, there's one thing that you've, well, actually, there's more than one thing I learned tonight, but there's one thing I've taken away in particular, which is what I really encourage people to do is to take away one thing that you know you can implement and go and do it. That one thing for me are those index cards. I'm an online person and a digital person, but I have to 100% agree with you that having the tactile cards is a great way of doing it. I've used post-it notes on the wall and moved it around, but I actually like the index cards a whole lot better.
Yep, great.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a great move. That really made it clear to me that I could actually probably do it.
And you as you're going through it, thank you, Sean, but as you're going through it, when you look at what you've put out onto the dining room table, you'll go, yeah, I actually know some stuff, you know, I'm actually pretty good. So it helps get that mindset thing moving along as well. So yeah, it's really useful.
Yeah, excellent material, Craig. Thanks very much. And thanks, Nick.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. Well, look, thanks again, Craig. Let's give Craig a big virtual round of applause for his time tonight. Thank you. And you do have a door prize for us tonight as well, too, don't you?
I do. So that is, well, I don't know how you choose who it is. But the door prize is a sting for whatever learning it is you wanted to put out there, or just for your business. So this is something that you can tack onto the end of your own videos, or if you know you were to get me, for example, to do some other stuff, I would tack it onto the end of those as well. But it's yours. You can take it and do what you like with it. So it's a video sting.
Awesome. Excellent. So we do have a unique way of drawing this, and we have our wheel of names. So everybody's name is in here. A couple of rules with it. Actually, I should have mentioned the rules at the beginning, which is you actually have to be here to win. So if you've disappeared, well, you're not going to know that I didn't tell you the rules anyway. So if you've disappeared, you can't win. So if you actually have to be in the room, and we will redraw it if there is a disappearo here as well too. So who'd love to have a sting for their videos? I know that I would. Awesome. Excellent. All right, well, let's spin the wheel. Drum roll, please. Jacqueline Price.
Oh, yay, Jacqueline. So
Yeah.
lucky. She's one of the most
Thank you.
amazing manifestors I know. Jacqueline.
I said I was going to win.
Good on you, Jacqueline.
Oh, look at that. You absolutely have. All right. So you have a sting with Craig. So I'll leave it to you both to connect up. Maybe Jacqueline, if you drop Craig your details or connect up on Messenger, or you've got his email address and chat
Yes,
there to
I've written it
organise
down.
that.
If you've got my email address, that's great. Just give me a hoy and we'll take it from there. Cool.
Thank you so much, Craig.
Anytime.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. Well, that's it for this evening. Thanks everyone for coming along, and especially thanks to Craig for coming and sharing your wisdom tonight. I know there's some things that I'm going to take away and implement as well too. So we'll be back here again next week, same time, same place, same Zoom. Well, actually, it might be a different Zoom, but we'll be back here with another topic next week. If you want to see the replay of this, it will be up on YouTube tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, it'll normally be up there. So the YouTube channel is in chat right now. If you go there and subscribe and hit the bell beside the subscribe button, that means you'll get an email or a notification to let you know when the video's up there. Of course, for next week as well too, registrations are open for that there as well. So feel free to go and register. I think you can register now, but anyway, we'll drop the link up into chat as well too. And now is the perfect time to save the chat. If you want those apps and links that are there and Craig's details, just open up chat, which is that little speech bubble icon at the bottom of your screen. Click the three little dots on the bottom right hand side, and that will save it to your computer. Sometimes people lose it on their computer, but when you do save it there, it will have a link there to let you know where it is, and you just click on that and it will take you right to that note. All right, well, that is tonight's session. Thanks everyone for showing up, and look forward to seeing you next time.